Hello and welcome back. In this part 16 we are going to add this last mounting boss and this last stiffeners, and from there we will conclude this tutorial. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to it. And for the last mounting boss we are going to reuse what we did for this one. So we will select the component as usual. We will move it something like 200 like that, so we have a new copy, and then we will move it back 200, and now we can go ahead more, replace part with copy, then right click and we will name it B2, then save. Now we can go ahead and edit in place. Control Q first. Now we will redefine the enter part copy. So select, we want to be this component and this face. And now for the protrusion, we will go to edit definition, and we are going to go back to the sketch step, and we'll still use the parallel plane option, but the reference plane this time will be this XZ plane. But now you can see I can only change the value of the offset, and to change the reference plane what I have to do is to shift and click. So I will press down shift and click to select this plane, and I will have this message. We are not going to worry about that, and now I can define the offset in this direction. Okay, now let's see, the value should be 250, and let's make sure that we are going to do that in the correct side, so it should be the outlet side. Okay, so this side. Okay, so 250, and make sure that we are on this side. And now we have this error message, and what is happening is that because we use the from to option, the to surface is not properly computed. This is not a big deal. We are going to click the edit, and we are going to go to the sketch step, the profile step, and we are going to reposition the cycle. Okay, so first we will remove this constraint, and we will hide the assembly geometry. Now we will redefine this dimension. So with the Alt key pressed down, we will select this endpoint and connect it to the origin, and now you can see the cycle is now properly computed, so we can move this to the location we want. So Control Q, so we have a better visual reference, and the distance is 130 in this direction, and this one should be 920. So let's first add these dimensions, 920, and now we will change this value to minus 130, and there it is. As you can see, now this surface will not be enough to define the extent of the protrusion, so we have something more to do. We will close the sketch, and we have this error message again, so we'll hit edit, and for the time being we are going to change this to a unit extent, and we are just going to define something like this and finish. Okay, now what we want to do is to roll back to this feature, so go to, and we'll use Control Q to show assembly components, and we will select this one also as reference geometry. So interpart copy, select this and this face, finish. cancel, then Ctrl Q. And as we did for one of the vertical stiffener, so this stiffener, we are going to extend these two faces and trim them back so that we have the correct intersection. Okay, we're going to use the extend tool. So extend this, select this edge, then extend something like this, right click, then this one of this surface, and we extend up to this approximately. Okay, now if we try to create the intersection between this and this, you can see we cannot have a clean trim, because if you want to remove this portion of the part copy 2, you will be removing this one also, and this is happening because the part intersect at multiple location. Okay, so we'll press escape, and what we are going to try to do is to trim these two surfaces so that we have only one intersection, so this one. Okay, to do that we are going to use a parallel plane using the XY plane as reference, and we are going to move up to somewhere like this, and if it is not okay, we will adjust the distance later. Okay, now using the trim tool this time, we will select this as the body to trim, then right click, and this as the tool element, and we will remove this portion and this portion, and now you can see the result is this surface. We'll do the same for this one. Right click to accept. Now we select the tool, the plane as the tool, and we will remove this part and this part. Okay, now we can use the intersect tool again. We select this one and this one, and we remove this part and Ctrl Q and this one. Okay, now you can see we have something cleaner. Finish and cancel, Ctrl Q. Now we will stitch the two surfaces, so we have a single body. Finish, and now we can go back to the protrusion, go to, and we will edit the definition, the extend step. We will now select from to extend, right click to accept the profile plane as the from plane, and the two surfaces, we will select this body, and now you can see how the protrusion is really limited. Okay, now we'll hide these two, so oops, so we can see the result, and there it is. Now we will close and return to the assembly, and as we did, maybe not yet, before we create the old feature, we have to delete this feature. Now close and return. We will recreate the threaded hole. Okay, so again, features, hole. Okay, coincident plane, the options, we select threaded, this one, and this time we will select the G1. The extent is 30 millimeter, and again from to extend, and okay. So make sure that we have the peer edge locate active, and we select the center of the edge and we close the sketch. Now we have to select the two surface, so we will use this front plane, so the XZ plane. Make sure we select the XZ plane, and you can see these three components will be affected by the feature, so we just right click to accept, and Solid Edge will compute and create the feature. Okay, something is not as it should. Maybe the hole is bigger than it should be, so edit profile, then normal 2, and let's see, hole cycle definition. The diameter is 30 millimeter. This can be bigger than the boss, so we will cancel and instead have a look on the boss. Okay, finish. Okay, now I can explain what is happening because now we have the feature created. Okay, anyway, now we can just make sure we ground the feature or the part and go ahead and create the last stiffener and conclude this tutorial. For the last stiffener, we are going to add a new component and make sure we'll edit in place. We'll rename it S11, then save, Ctrl Q. Now we will include the component we want to use as reference, so this face and this one, this face, then this one and this face. Finish, cancel, Ctrl Q. Now as you can see, we have the opening at this location, so we have to rotate this face as we did before. So again 180 and like that. Okay, now we are ready to create our stiffener. Okay, so extrude from this coincident plane, normal 2, and now we will just use the geometry from these components and we'll add 2 lines just like that, and we will trim and we make sure that this, let me hide the interpart copy first. Make sure that these 2 lines are connected. Okay, now we have to add some dimension, so we have this dimension, but we will add the dimension from this endpoint to the origin, which should be 900 minus 130. So origin x-axis to this endpoint, 900 minus 130, and next we'll make these 2 lines parallel, then add this dimension and this one. Okay, so we can start with this one for, and this should be 25. Now we'll make the 2 lines parallel and distance between as we did previously, and we will define the dimension orientation using this option, and we select this one and this line, and the distance should be 270, and Ctrl Q to see how it is located. Looks good. Now we can just close sketch and we make sure that the extent is symmetrical, and we will use the finite extent option. So have 12 millimeters, and that's it. Now cancel. Okay, now close and return. And to finish this tutorial, what we can do is to add a chamfer on this edge. We forgot to do that, so we have two chamfers at these ends. So we'll just use the chamfer tool, and under the option we will keep equal setbacks, and we will enter 16 millimeters as the setback, and we select this, and this, then right click, and as you can see the chamfers are created. We'll also break this edge with a 3 millimeters chamfer, so this one and this one, and finish, cancel. Okay, close and return. We can do the same for this one also. Hide this, and then chamfer tool, 3 millimeter is for these two edges, and 16 for this one and this one, then close and return. And pretty much that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We cover a lot of topics. We use simple tools like the line tool, the cycle tool, and we built a very complex master sketch, and we use layers to manage the geometry inside this master sketch, and then we build the cross-section planes on top of coordinate systems using the geometry inside the master sketch. From the cross-section planes we create the sheet metal components, and then we add the rings, the flanges, the stiffeners, the deflectors, and that was quite a challenge, and I hope you really have a lot of fun and you learn something from this. And thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.